Anna, let's talk about the first 3 months nearly of Trump's second term. It's been very Trumpian, very sort of chaotic on one level. Other people see method to the madness. I'm kind of one of them. I think there's been some clear wins. What's happened on the border is borderline.
Anna, she has a dope get up in this video. Facts. The sweater is dope. Facts.
On the border is borderline.
Looking good.
Miraculous. The volume of people pouring over the southern border illegally has been stemmed almost to nothing. Method to the madness. I'm kind of one of them. Very Trumpian, very sort of chaotic on one level. Other people see method to the madness. I'm kind of one of them. I think there've been some clear wins. What's happened on the border is borderline, for want of a better phrase,
bars.
Miraculous. The volume of people pouring over the southern border illegally has been stemmed almost to nothing, which is an incredible achievement. Would you agree with that before we go into other issues? I don't always pick.
Skip.
Some of which, by the way, were.
Skip this ad. Horseshoe game.
Actions,
Shoe game.
Some of which.
The rap group.
.com/hits.
It is a song. Skip this ad.
Actions, some of which, by the
Skip
way, were
this
massive mistakes.
ad is a song. Shoe gang dropped.
Well, I certainly think his actions, some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of illegal immigrants. But I think those actions.
Wait, did she say illegal? The true illegals? That was not a mistake. Deporting the true illegals if they were not vetted or documented. If the people were not vetted or documented, they should have gotten deported. But
some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But I think those
people who this dude Khalil, who's not illegal, the fact that DJT wants to deport this dude for with no proof, no evidence of wrongdoing is crazy, yo. Sad. Nah, you have to have proof before you deport a person. You can't, just because you don't agree with somebody on a certain thing, that doesn't mean you can deport or arrest the person with no logic. Yeah. Nuts. Yeah, they detained this dude in NJ, New Jersey. They sent him to Louisiana after. Yeah, they said because they believe he supports Hamas, the views of Hamas. They believe that is enough to deport this dude. But did he foment violence? Did he commit an offense? Did he damage anything? Did he physically abuse people or threaten people or do any act like that? If he did not, he should not get deported. Period. End of story. End of story, yo.
Some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But I think those actions and the rhetoric coming from the administration.
Oh, she said it's legal, not illegal.
Some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes.
My apologies.
Legal immigrants. But I think those actions. Well, I certainly think his actions, some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But I think those actions. Well, I certainly think his actions, some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But
yes,
I think those.
We agree. We concur. We converge. This dude, DJT, he sent this gay barber to an El Salvador prison, a mega prison. This is the largest prison in the Americas. Facts. This prison houses 40,000 people. This prison, mega prison, houses and holds 40K inmates. Super prison, bro. Huge. This prison is known for human rights violations. Bro, there's no, the inmates don't have beds. They get tortured. It is crazy, It is abhorrent, the conditions they live under in this mega prison. This gay barber got sent there. They believe he had a tattoo that is connected to the Tren de Aragua gang, the Venezuelan gang. They said it looks like a tattoo, but they showed no proof that this dude has connections to this gang. They showed no proof, no real evidence to corroborate their claims. Trash. They showed a picture of the gay barber. He looks harmless, bro. This dude, he doesn't look like a menace or a devil or a rogue or a villain or a ruffian. He doesn't look like he doesn't look like, this bloke doesn't look like he commits offenses. This dude has a baby face. This dude looks innocent as ever, bro. This dude looks like an upstanding citizen, bro. He has no criminal record, no rap sheet, no history of violence or anything. This dude is clean, bro, but they want to say this dude is connected to a gang. This is nuts. What is this, bro? What is this? In what way is this legal or laudable or sensible or sagacious or prudent? In what way is this BS sensible? You can't excuse this, bro. You really can't. Anybody who does is an idiot or a bozo. One of the two. One of the two. You have to be one of the two if you condone this. There has to be due process. There has to be a trial. There has to be... you can't abuse power just because you don't like the certain people. You can't abuse power just because you don't like certain individuals. Bro, another dude got sent to the mega prison too. This soccer player, professional soccer player and coach for the youth. This dude, this bloke does not have a rap sheet either. He is also clean, but they said he has a tattoo that looks like a gang tattoo that resembles. They say he has a tattoo that resembles a gang tattoo, a TDA tattoo. Bro, but in reality, this dude has a tattoo that is a crown on top of a soccer ball with a rosary. That is the tattoo. It is a crown on top of a soccer ball with a rosary. They say that is a TDA tattoo. Bro. Really? Seriously? Really? He got sent for that, bro? Yeah. No proof that he has ties to this gang. Just sent the bloke to a mega prison in a country. Sent him to a mega prison in a country he was not born. Crazy. Sent him to a country from which he did not originate. Sent him to a prison in a country from which he did not originate. He is Venezuelan, not El Salvadorian. He is Venezuelan, just like the barber. He isn't El Salvadorian. He isn't. This dude is not he isn't El Salvadorian. He isn't El Salvadorian. Yeah. They say this dude, the soccer player, he fled. Or no, yeah, wait. They say, the soccer player, they say he is, the barber is Venezuelan. The soccer player is from did they say he's from El Salvador? Did they say he's from did they say he's from El Salvador? They said he fled the country. They said he fled because he got tortured in this secret building. They said it was clandestine. They said the building in which he was tortured was clandestine. They said this befell him, this torture, because he opposed Maduro, the leader, the person that is running the country, El Salvador. He opposed the authoritarian-ish that is happening in that country. So the result was torture. This dude got tortured. He fled because of the treatment he was subjected to. He fled because of the treatment he was subjected to. He went to Mexico. This dude used the CBP app, the CBP One app, the Customs and Border Protection app that immigrants use before they enter the U.S. They have to attend hearings. They have to prove that they are in danger, that they were facing oppression and persecution in their homelands. It has to be proven to be true before they enter the states. Yes. Yeah, this is a crazy thing. This is a crazy thing that is taking place. This is a crazy thing that is taking place. What DJT is doing is illegal and abusive. This isn't proper. This isn't in accordance with the law, bro. Boo. Everybody in all parties should condemn this and denounce this, but everybody won't because certain people are puppets. Pathetic poltroons, invertebrates, courageless caitiffs, pusillanimous people with no gonads or balls or bravery or intrepidness. They are soft, they are yellow, they are chicken livered. End of story.
I certainly think his actions, some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants, but I think those actions and the rhetoric coming from the administration, of course, is going to discourage people from attempting to cross the border. So the lower volume of I mean, that has certainly worked, yes.
Right.
And look, what's mirrored by your comments is what you see in the polling. You know, the one area in which Trump continues to do quite well is the area in immigration. So I think the American people overall have been giving him pretty high grades on immigration, despite the fact, you know, I personally have had a few issues with innocent people,
Yes.
including, again, American
Everybody
citizens getting
should
rounded up in
take
this mess.
umbrage with the deportation of people to mega prisons in countries they did not originate from with no proof or due process. It is nuts.
You know, the one area in which Trump continues to do quite well is the area in immigration. So I think the American people overall have been giving him pretty high grades on immigration, despite the fact, you know, I personally have
Laudatory
had a few
remarks.
issues, with innocent people, including, again,
Same.
American citizens getting rounded up in
We
this
share
mess.
the sentiment.
But, you know, my
Anna
in which
and
Trump continues to do
Devo
quite well
share
is
the
the area in
sentiment
immigration.
that
So
it
I think
is wrong to deport people wrongfully with no
from attempting
proof
to cross
of
the border. So,
wrongdoing.
lower volume of, I mean, that has certainly worked, yes.
Right.
And look, what's mirrored from attempting to cross the border.
Do you
So
think this works?
the lower volume of, I mean, that has certainly worked, yes.
Right.
And look, what's mirrored by your comments is what you some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But I think those actions and the rhetoric coming from the administration, of course, is going to discourage people from attempting to cross the border.
Deter.
So, the lower volume of, I mean, that has certainly worked, yes.
Right.
And look, what's mirrored by your comments is what you see in the polling. You know, the one area in which Trump continues to do quite well is the area in immigration. So I think the American people overall have been giving him pretty high grades on immigration,
Yep.
despite the fact, you know, I personally have had a few issues with innocent people, including,
Yes.
again, American citizens getting
People with
rounded up in
logic
this mess.
should
But,
oppose
you know,
this.
my
Do you
my
object
point
to the principle?
from previously
Okay,
still
but hang on.
remains that, you know, the Biden administration's failures on the border
Yeah.
created
Softness,
a groundswell of
wokeness.
support for Trump or
Yeah.
Trumpian immigration policies.
Yep.
And I think Democrats need to take responsibility
Yes,
for that, to be
they
quite
do.
frank.
They really
Because
do.
there wouldn't be that groundswell of support if it weren't
Word.
for the
Yeah.
mistakes made by the Biden.
The
No, I
weakness of the
completely agree.
JB
I mean,
at
Brian,
the
it is-
JB admin.
To be quite frank.
I-
Because there wouldn't be that groundswell
The
of
belief
support
that
if
it is
weren't
humane
for-
to permit illegal people with no knowledge of their intentions. If you don't know if they're rapists, the leaders, terrorists, you don't know. But because they're in certain groups, it is inhumane to not permit them to sneak in to enter unvetted. Yeah, nah, it is not humane to let people in with no documentation, bro. It is not humane to permit people to enter this country with no documentation. It is inhumane to permit people to enter this country with no documentation. It is crazy. It is nuts. Yeah. Not saying all illegals are monsters, but certain people are. If they delete certain people, if they harm the legal people who live here, if they endanger and imperil the people who legally live here, that is an issue, bro. In what way is that humane? Yeah. The people, the Democrats who said it is humane are dishonest, bad faith suckers, bro. Words.
Trumpian immigration policies. And I think Democrats need to take responsibility for that, to be quite frank.
I-
because there wouldn't be that groundswell
Certain
of
people
support.
Like Ivory Smith, she got deleted by a drunk driver, bro. He was illegal, bro. He hit the car in which her mother drove. He hit the car, then left. He did not see if the mother or Ivory was okay. He just left, bro. No remorse, no mercy, no care. He just took off, bro. Evil, bro. Depraved, savage, barbaric, villainous. He's a rogue. He's a ruffian. He is a devil, a blight. It is what it is. He is a true blight, just like Jose Ibarra, who is moral muck, who brutally murdered Lakin in Georgia, bro. Bro. If JB was not weak, this stuff would not have happened, bro. An illegal dismembered somebody in New York too. A person, a man, a monster burnt a woman alive in a New York subway train, bro. Evil, bro. Wicked, immoral. This stuff would not have befallen these people if JB was not a effing goofball, bro. An effing soft and woke POTUS. An effing woke and soft POTUS.
If it weren't for the mistakes made by the Biden.
No, I completely agree. I mean, Brian,
the goofiness of the JB admin.
That they have brought the southern border crisis, which is what it was, under control. This issue of what should be done with illegal immigrants who are criminals is hugely popular with the American people to deport them. And my question would be, I'm not an American, but I have a home there. I've been coming to America a long time. If I was to break the law as non-American, I'd be straight on a plane out of there with my visa revoked, right? It's not difficult. Why should the same logic not apply to illegal immigrants who are criminals?
If they are criminals, then they should be. Look, I'm not here to defend somebody who's done something wrong, who wants the privilege of being in the country. If they've done something, if they've committed criminal activity, then of course I'm for that as well. My issue, which Anna alluded to, is the fact that folks who are not criminals are getting swept up because we've completely abdicated the whole concept of due process and all of this. And so I think that's the issue, which Anna.
But if you are illegal, regardless if you are a monster, if you came here illegally, you have to go. It is what it is. You can't be unfair to the people who do this the proper way, who enter the legal way, who go through the legal process, who take tests, who waits years to get to be able to live here, bro. You have to do things the legal way. You have to, bro. What makes you special?
Who's done something wrong? Who should?
You have to do what everybody else does, bro. You have to go through the legal process.
Who's done something wrong,
if you don't, you will get deported.
If they've done something, if they've committed criminal activity, then of course.
But you have to be a true illegal, not what people perceive to be illegal, not. You have to be truly undocumented. You have to be truly unvetted and truly undocumented to get deported. You can't deport just because a tattoo looks like a gang tattoo or somebody supports views of a terrorist org from a different country. Nah, bro. Nah. You have to be, the people have to be truly undocumented. They have to have no paperwork. If they have paperwork, you can't deport the people, bro. If the people have paperwork, you can't deport them. It is what it is, yo. You have to follow the law as a POTUS, as a politician. You have to follow the law. You must follow the law. It doesn't matter if you are a POTUS or not. It doesn't matter if you are the POTUS or not. You still have to follow the law, bro. Nobody is above the law. 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 Facts.
Something, if they've committed criminal activity, then of course I'm for that as well. My issue, which Anna alluded to, is the fact that folks who are not criminal, something, if they've committed criminal activity, then of course I'm for that as well. My issue, which Anna alluded to, is the fact that folks who are not criminals are getting swept up because we've completely abdicated the concept of due process in all of this. And so I think that that's still important. I think that, look, it used to be a Republican refrain that we're a country of laws, and so we can't just suspend them when it's inconvenient for us to do so.
That's a good point, Benny, isn't it? I mean, you must be concerned about the due process here too. You don't want to have a kind of anarchical setup where anyone can get chaos without any due process, or do you?
Hold on, wait a second. What do you define as criminal?
Well, no, we know already there are some people. For example, there are some members of this so-called Venezuelan. Well, there are certain people. Well, the point I'm making about say the Venezuelan gang
ratified quite recently. When you enter the country illegally, you are a criminal by definition.
Yes.
That's why we call it illegal immigration. You've broken our laws by remaining here without
the first
invitation
offense.
doing this the proper way. You are a criminal.
Yep.
Therefore,
not all illegals are rapists or murderers or thieves. Not all are rapists, thieves, or murderers. But everybody who enters unvetted, everybody who sneaks into this country is a person who is a ruffian, bro. A criminal. Yeah. It is not, it isn't legal to cross the border with no documentation or proof or paperwork. You have to have papers, bro. If you don't have papers, you have to go. If you don't have the papers, you have to go. It is what it is. If you enter a country with no papers, you commit an offense, a crime. The level of just because certain people are not, just because certain illegals work gigs and take care of their kinfolk and do positive things and help their people, that doesn't mean they are not able to be deported, because they also entered illegally. They did not go through the legal process. Yeah, they are not on the level of rapists and thieves, but they still committed a crime by coming here illegally with no papers. So deportation has to happen to those people too. You can't only deport the rapists and the leaders and keep the non-rapists and the leaders. You can't only deport the rapists and the leaders and keep the non-rapists and the leaders. You have to deport. You must deport all illegals, all people who came here illegally, who came with no papers, no documentation, who came. You must deport. You must deport all people who entered with no documentation. Period. Point blank. End of story.
So by remaining here without an official invitation, doing this the proper way, you are a criminal. Therefore, all illegal aliens are criminals by definition. So deporting a criminal alien is the right thing to do by your definition, Brian.
But there has to be proof, though. There has to be proof.
So
you can't.
Deporting a criminal alien is the right thing to do by your definition, Brian.
Don't deport people with no proof that they are illegals. There still has to be proof. You still have to show proof to prove that the person is an illegal. But yes,
so
Benny is correct when he says if you come here illegally, you are a criminal, bro. You are a criminal. It doesn't matter if you are a rapist or not.
Therefore, all illegal aliens are criminals by definition. So deporting a criminal alien is the right thing to do by your definition, Brian, because they're criminals. Yes?
So, Benny, I get what you're saying. That if you're in the country illegally, then the United States has the right to deport you. I understand where you're coming from on that. However, I would just ask to maybe consider the limited resources we have in regard to our response to this issue. So I would argue that it is
valid
more
too.
important
What
to focus
AK
on
is
criminal
saying.
elements who are actually causing other crimes within the borders of the United States and are here illegally because we don't have enough detention space. We don't have enough tax resources. We don't have enough judges to adjudicate whether or not the individual who's been accused of engaging in that criminal behavior actually did so. The courts still have a role in our system of checks and balances, and they do need to weigh in and adjudicate whether or not someone should be deported. That's an important part of due process. And I get that people are under the assumption that due process doesn't matter for people who are undocumented, but you would be mistaken in taking that ideology on, because that ends up deteriorating the rights of American citizens. We must protect taking that ideology on, because that ends up deteriorating the assumption that due process doesn't matter for people who are undocumented. But you would be mistaken in taking that ideology on, because that ends up deteriorating the rights of American citizens. We must protect due process at any and all costs, because if we don't, it'll come back to us in a very negative way.
Scary.
But, I support the Trump administration's. We must protect due process at any and all costs, because if we don't, it'll...
Anna, she was saying in her monologue on the Young Turks channel that the MAGA people who believe this is not able to happen to legal U.S. citizens, they are really they are really delusional. If they continue to believe that, they will. If the MAGA people who believe this isn't able to happen to legal citizens the citizens who live here, if they believe it isn't possible for that to happen to the people who legally live here, if they continue to believe that it isn't possible for this to happen to legal citizens, they will be led to the slaughter, metaphorically speaking. They will be led to the slaughter, metaphorically speaking. They will be led to the slaughter, metaphorically speaking. If they continue to believe that they will be led to the slaughter, metaphorically speaking. If they continue to believe that they will be led to the slaughter, metaphorically speaking. Words.
Come back to rights of American citizens. We must protect due process at any and all costs, because if we don't, it'll come back to us in a very negative way.
Words.
But, I support the Trump administration's efforts in deporting criminals who are engaging in violent crimes in the United States. But I do think it's also important to ensure we're implementing due process so we're not wrongly accusing people of doing things they have not done and then deporting them based on those accusations alone.
Suppositions. Suppositions.
One branch of our federal government.
No real proof.
Accusations alone. That's too much government power concentrated into one branch of our federal government.
Abuse of authority.
On those accusations alone. That's too much government power concentrated into one branch of our
Words. Agreed.
There was at least one case reported this
She
week.
cooked.
A so-called member of this
She's based for
Venezuelan
saying
gang,
that.
where
It is based.
Brian,
Her response.
there
Her
was at least one
response.
case, reported
A
this week,
case
but one of-
response is based. Her response is truly based.
United States, but I do think it's also important to ensure we're implementing due process so we're not wrongly accusing people of doing things they have not done and then deporting them based on those accusations alone. That's too much government power concentrated into one branch of our federal government.
Brian, there was at least one case reported this week of one so-called member of this vile Venezuelan gang,
TDA.
where there were
Trendeo.
Yeah. And there's one guy who's a sort of, who looks like the least likely member of the Venezuelan
Harmless.
gang ever. Who's this sort of gay, quite artistic
Barber.
bloke who seems to be rounded up
Make
here.
up
It seems
artist.
on the face of it to be, it looks like the least likely member of a Venezuelan gang ever. Who's this sort of gay, quite artistic bloke who seems to be rounded up here. It seems on the face of it to be a complete miscarriage of any kind of justice without any due process. It's those kind of stories which I think are concerning people about the due process.
That are worthy of condemnation and hate.
100%, and it was all
Kind of stories which I think are concerning people about the due process.
100%, and it was all because he committed the crime of having a tattoo. I mean, the reality is that if we're in a situation where even one of these people was one single person who should not be there gets sent off, that is a massive fuck up yet again in an administration that's shown that it's perfectly willing to commit them over and over and over again. But look, this is what, so that none of us, so that Anna doesn't get rounded up, so that I don't get rounded up, so that Benny doesn't get rounded up.
Are you here illegally? Are you a legal American citizen?
We cannot be in a situation where we're just allowing people to get deported because they have tattoos on their arms. This is why due process
this is really important. Piers, this is really because he just brought in something that is berserker mode. This is bizarre world. So are you asserting that the administration is deporting Americans, naturalized American citizens, or native-born American citizens? Is that what you're asserting?
I'm asserting that they are
There
deporting
have been a
people
few
who are
cases of
not
that.
criminal
It's a
aliens.
mistake.
So you're saying that Anna is here, and Anna, I totally agree with your last point, by the way. And I need to take an aside here. Anna's done incredible reporting on some of the horrific crimes that have been allowed to happen in this country.
Word.
Some of them by criminal aliens, some of them by American citizens that don't get prosecuted. And so we cover that on my program. I just want to say thank you for doing that, because it's an awful society. It's a zero trust society when you let criminals out of jail to do heinous crimes.
Weak.
Elon Musk stroke Doge.